Betrayed by the people he trusted most, Ronald Miller uncovers a web of deceit that threatens to destroy everything he's fought for. As corrupt powers close in and danger lurks in every shadow, can one man's relentless pursuit of justice save a law firm on the brink of collapse, or will exposing the truth cost him everything he holds dear? Ronald Miller's office was a sanctuary of order and precision, much like the man himself. The mahogany desk gleamed under the soft glow of an antique brass lamp, stacks of legal books and contract files arranged meticulously. Outside, the city buzzed with restless energy, but here, amidst the quiet rustle of paper and the soft tapping of keyboard keys, Ronald found his focus. For 15 years, he had been the firm's backbone, a senior contract lawyer known for his meticulous attention to detail and unflappable calm under pressure. Tonight, as midnight approached, Ronald was deep in his element, revising the final draft of the Lambert acquisition contract. This was the deal that could catapult the firm into a new era of prestige and profit, the culmination of months of negotiations. Every clause was crucial. He read the document line by line, his seasoned eyes catching nuances others might miss. But when he reached the final clause, the one that guaranteed legal protection and indemnity, his heart sank. The language was altered, vague, ambiguous. The clause no longer provided the ironclad protection it once did. Instead, it introduced loopholes and subtle weaknesses. A cold knot formed in his stomach. Ronald scrolled through the document's edit. History. The changes were recent and unauthorized. "What the hell?" he muttered, rubbing his temple. His phone buzzed sharply. A message from Michael, the bright but inexperienced junior associate Ronald had taken under his wing. "Ronald, have you reviewed the final clause? Something's wrong. It doesn't protect us like before." Ronald's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He typed back quickly. "I'm on it. Meet me in my office in 10 minutes. When Michael arrived, his face was pale. "I don't understand. Who would do this?" Ronald shook his head slowly. "Neither do I. But whoever it is, they're trying to sabotage the deal." Minutes later, his phone rang. It was Lydia Thornton, the managing partner, a woman whose sharp mind and steely resolve had kept the firm afloat during turbulent times. "Ronald, I need you in the boardroom immediately. There's been a leak. Details of the Lambert deal have been leaked to their legal counsel. We're compromised." The words hit Ronald like a punch. A leak? How? And who? He grabbed his coat, heart hammering as he strode through the marble corridors to the boardroom. The atmosphere was tense. Several senior partners were already gathered, faces grim. Lydia began without preamble. "Someone here betrayed us. We have no proof yet, but it's clear confidential documents were accessed and passed to Lambert's team ahead of schedule." Whispers filled the room. Ronald's gaze flicked to Martin Hayes, a senior partner with a reputation for charm and ambition. Martin smiled thinly, but there was something in his eyes that unsettled Ronald. After the meeting, Lydia pulled Ronald aside. "I'm putting you in charge of an internal investigation. Keep it discreet. We can't afford a public scandal." Ronald nodded, the weight of the task settling on his shoulders. This was no longer just about law. It was about trust, loyalty, and survival. Back in his office, Ronald dove into the firm's digital records. Access logs, email trails, file modifications, every digital footprint was scrutinized under his relentless gaze. The hours slipped by unnoticed. Then he found it. A series of encrypted emails was sent from Martin's account to an anonymous address outside the firm. The messages detailed confidential drafts and negotiation strategies. Ronald's blood ran cold. Martin, the polished, trusted senior partner, was the leak. Why? The question gnawed at Ronald. Later that night, as he sat poring over the evidence, the office door creaked open. A shadow moved in the dim light. Martin stepped inside, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. "You're digging in dangerous places, Ronald. Martin said softly. Ronald straightened, refusing to show fear. Why, Martin? Why betray us? Martin shrugged, a cold smile playing on his lips. Sometimes you have to do what's necessary to survive. The firm's future depends on more than loyalty. Ronald's fists clenched. You're destroying everything we built. Martin's eyes glittered. You'll understand soon enough. The following day, Ronald received a package left anonymously on his desk. Inside was a flash drive labeled, simply Evidence. His hands trembled as he plugged it into his computer. The files revealed recorded conversations implicating Martin in orchestrating the leak and financial records suggesting bribery from Lambert's side. Relief warred with dread. The evidence was irrefutable, but exposing Martin meant risking everything. The firm could split apart, careers could be destroyed. As Ronald drafted his report, his phone buzzed again. A chilling message. Stop digging, or you'll regret it. Ronald stared at the screen, the threat clear. The game had begun, and he was caught in the middle. The morning light filtered weakly through the blinds of Ronald Miller's office, casting long shadows that stretched across the piles of documents scattered on his desk. Sleep had eluded him for 2 nights running, the weight of his discovery pressing down with relentless gravity. The flash drive's contents confirmed what he feared. Martin Hayes, the man who had smiled confidently beside him at countless firm meetings, was the architect of their downfall. But uncovering the truth was only the beginning. Ronald knew that taking down a senior partner was like detonating a bomb in the firm's foundation. It would fracture relationships, expose vulnerabilities, and perhaps even destroy the career he had painstakingly built over 15 years. Still, justice demanded no less. His phone buzzed sharply, breaking the silence. It was Lydia Thornton. "Ronald, I need to see you in private. Now." The urgency in her voice was unmistakable. He slipped the flash drive into his briefcase and hurried to the managing partner's office. Lydia's expression was grave. "I've reviewed the preliminary evidence you sent. This goes deeper than just a leak. Martin may have been compromised by Lambert's counsel, bribed, or worse. I'm launching a full forensic audit on firm communications and finances." Ronald nodded. "We need to move quickly. If he suspects we're onto him, he could cover his tracks or sabotage the investigation." Lydia's gaze sharpened. "I'm counting on you to lead discreetly. No alerts, no rumors." As Ronald left her office, a cold thought took root. If Martin was this deeply embedded with the opposition, how many others could be compromised? Back in his office, Ronald dove deeper into digital forensics. He enlisted the help of Sarah Jennings, the firm's trusted IT security expert. Together, they traced email chains, file access logs, and server records. Every step revealed new anomalies, deleted messages, encrypted transfers at odd hours, and suspicious VPN connections. One night, as Ronald pored over logs with Sarah, an alert popped up, a new unauthorized login attempt to the firm's contract database. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard. "That's the 3rd this week. Someone's trying to erase files remotely." Ronald's jaw tightened. "We have to block all access immediately. Lock down sensitive files." Sarah hesitated. "If it's Martin or someone on his payroll, they'll know we're onto them. They could strike back." Ronald stared at the screen. "Let them try." Meanwhile, Martin's demeanor grew colder, more calculating. Rumors began to swirl around the firm, whispers of tension between him and Lydia, unexplained late-night meetings, and the quiet exit of junior associates loyal to Ronald. One afternoon, Ronald caught sight of Martin in the hallway. Their eyes locked, a silent challenge passing between them. Later that evening, a package arrived at Ronald's home. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a cryptic message. "Stop, or everything you care about will be destroyed." Ronald folded the note carefully, heart pounding. The threat was personal and unmistakable. He thought of his family, his wife, Emily, and their young daughter, Sophie. How could he protect them if the storm inside the firm spiraled out of control? Desperate for guidance, Ronald confided in Lydia during a private meeting. "We can't back down," Lydia said firmly. "But we also have to protect the people we love." Together, they devised a plan to gather concrete evidence and present it to the firm's board, a move that could finally expose Martin publicly and save the firm's reputation. But Martin was not idle. Late one night, Ronald's computer was hacked. Sensitive files were wiped, and a virus was planted to track his every move. Ronald barely escaped a confrontation with masked intruders outside his home, a brutal reminder that the stakes were higher than mere contracts and legal battles. Through it all, Ronald's resolve hardened. He would expose the rot, no matter the cost. With Sarah's help, they uncovered a financial trail. Payments from Lambert's counsel funneled into Martin's offshore accounts, along with documents proving he had manipulated contract clauses to benefit Lambert at the firm's expense. The final proof was undeniable. The day of reckoning arrived. Ronald stood before the boardroom, the weight of evidence heavy in his briefcase. As he began to speak, the room crackled with tension. Martin sat at the head of the table, calm but unsettled. Ronald laid out the evidence systematically: the leaked contracts, encrypted emails, financial bribery, and tampered clauses. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Martin's mask cracked. "This is a witch hunt," he spat. "You have no proof." Lydia's voice cut through sharply. "The proof is here, and we will not let corruption fester." As the board voted to suspend Martin pending investigation, Ronald felt a mixture of relief and dread. The battle was far from over. Outside the firm, the media caught wind of the scandal. Headlines splashed across newspapers and news sites, igniting public scrutiny. Ronald's personal life suffered. Late-night threats escalated, and his family became targets of intimidation. Yet, through every trial, Ronald's determination never wavered. He had uncovered a betrayal that cut to the firm's core, but he was determined to restore integrity, no matter the cost. The air in the boardroom was heavy, electric, with a charged silence that held the weight of impending judgment. Ronald Miller stood tall, though the toll of the past weeks pressed heavily on his shoulders. His suit was immaculate, but the exhaustion in his eyes betrayed countless sleepless nights and whispered threats. At the head of the table sat Martin Hayes, his once confident veneer now fractured by the revelations exposed. His eyes, cold and calculating, flickered with restrained fury as the board prepared to deliberate the evidence Ronald had presented. The room, filled with the firm's most powerful partners and legal advisors, was a microcosm of the law firm's complex hierarchy. Some loyal to Ronald, others hesitant, and a few whose allegiances were unclear. This was the final battlefield. "Before we proceed to the vote," Lydia Thornton began, her voice firm yet measured, "I propose we allow Martin a chance to respond to the allegations." Martin rose slowly, his presence commanding the room's attention. His voice, though calm, carried an edge of menace. "These accusations are baseless and defamatory. I challenge the integrity of the evidence. This is an orchestrated attempt to usurp me, spearheaded by Mr. Miller's vendetta." Ronald met his gaze unflinchingly. "The evidence speaks for itself, Martin. The contracts you altered, the offshore accounts, the attempts to sabotage my work. This is not personal. It's about preserving the firm's integrity." A tense pause followed. The board members exchanged wary glances, some nodding subtly, others frowning with doubt. Then, the youngest partner, a sharp-eyed woman named Claire Benton, cleared her throat. "If I may, we've also received testimonies from multiple associates and staff members corroborating Mr. Miller's findings. This is not a one-sided claim." Martin's expression darkened. "Convenient." Before the debate could spiral further, the door opened abruptly. Sarah Jennings, the IT expert, stepped in, holding a tablet. "Apologies for the interruption, but I have something urgent to report." All eyes turned to her. "We've just uncovered An encrypted communication from an anonymous source implicating additional partners collaborating with Martin Hayes to undermine the firm, Sarah said, her voice steady but urgent. They've been manipulating client information and funneling resources out of the company. Murmurs erupted. The web of corruption was wider than anyone had imagined. Ronald's heart pounded. This new evidence was explosive, but also dangerous. It meant the fight wasn't just against Martin. There were hidden enemies in their midst. Lydia's eyes narrowed. This changes everything. We must widen the investigation immediately. Martin's face drained of color, the mask slipping. Further, you'll regret this. You're all pawns in a game you don't understand. Before anyone could respond, the room's door burst open again. This time, several security personnel entered, escorting a man in handcuffs. It was James Clark, a senior partner known for his ruthless tactics and closeness to Martin. James's eyes met Ronald's with a mixture of defiance and desperation. You think this ends here? The firm will burn if you push too hard. But the board's resolve hardened. The vote proceeded swiftly, suspending Martin Hayes and James Clark, pending a full independent inquiry. The news hit the legal world like a storm. Headlines blared of a corruption scandal at one of the country's top law firms. Clients demanded reassurances, and the firm's reputation teetered on the brink. Ronald's family life bore the strain. Late-night threats escalated to anonymous phone calls and shadowy figures loitering near their home. Emily urged him to step back for their safety, but Ronald's conviction only deepened. One evening, after putting Sophie to bed, Ronald sat with Emily, his hands trembling slightly. I can't stop now. If I do, they win, and I can't let that happen. Emily nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Then we stand with you, together. Weeks passed as the investigation unfolded. The IR firm's board, with Ronald and Lydia's guidance, began purging corrupt elements. The once hidden network of deceit was exposed: bribery, client data manipulation, contract rigging. Ronald's discovery of the final clause, a hidden amendment in the firm's charter that allowed for immediate dismissal of partners involved in criminal acts without due process, became the linchpin for justice. As the firm prepared to rebuild, Ronald convened one last meeting with Lydia and Sarah. We've won this battle, he said, exhaustion and relief mingling in his voice. But the real work begins now, rebuilding trust, ensuring transparency. Lydia smiled faintly. And making sure this never happens again. Sarah added, we've implemented new security protocols. No one will be able to manipulate contracts or client data without detection. Ronald felt a surge of hope. After months of fear and betrayal, a new dawn was breaking. Months later, the firm had begun to heal. Martin Hayes and his accomplices faced legal consequences, and the firm's leadership committed to a culture of integrity and vigilance. Ronald, once isolated by the storm, now stood surrounded by colleagues and friends who admired his courage and resilience. One afternoon, as he walked through the office, a junior associate approached him shyly. Mr. Miller, your work inspired me to speak up about irregularities I noticed. Thank you. Ronald smiled warmly. That's how change happens, one voice at a time. Back at home, Emily and Sophie waited for him with open arms. The threats and shadows had faded, replaced by peace. Ronald looked around, the weight of the past months lifting. Justice had prevailed, not just for the firm, but for every person who believed in honesty and courage. The final clause had been written, a clause not just in law but in life.